If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel, as well as follow me and subscribe to me on all my other social media platforms. What's up, Thrashers, and welcome back once again to the Thrash Maniac 99 YouTube channel, and it's day 8. We are almost there. We are at day 8 of the 12 days of metal holiday collaboration series with myself and other YouTubers that love metal, and we talk about a favorite album of ours from a particular subgenre of heavy metal music. So, we went over progressive metal yesterday. Today, we are now going to be talking about probably the most over-the-top subgenre in heavy metal history, and that is power metal. So basically, power metal pretty much stems from classic metal and the new wave of British heavy metal in particular, basically mixing that and speed metal, but instead of going aggressive and crazy like thrash did, basically they want to incorporate some classical music influence or just a lot of fantastical elements on top of their music. Now, of course, you got two major scenes of power metal in the world. You have the European scene and the American scene. The European scene has always been about more bombastic, more epic, and more classical and fantastical stuff, whereas in America, our power metal is mostly stripped down, raw, heavy, and little more just crazy. A little more crazy, and even at times a little bit thrashier than the European sound. So obviously my pick for power metal is going to be one of those American bands that has a more thrashy dexterity and a much more raw and heavier sound, and that is, of course, Iced Earth, and I went with Burnt Offerings. All controversy surrounding Jon Schaffer aside, which, by the way, he did nothing wrong, get over yourselves. But anyways, Burnt Offerings, I feel, when it comes down to American power metal, this, in my opinion, is the best out of them all, because it is also arguably the heaviest power metal album of all time. And of course, this band, I think some people tend to forget, this band came out of that same scene as the death metal bands like Death and Morbid Angel, and even Savatage, who were early in like the classic metal, power metal, and progressive metal sounds. So Iced Earth pretty much from that same scene, but Iced Earth basically wanted to take that power metal sound but mix it with a lot of thrash and classic metal in order to create something of their own. And this album in particular, the guitar tone on this album is just crunchy and brutal. And also the introduction to Matt Barlow, one of the best power metal vocalists of all time. And when you get tracks on here like the title track, Diary, Creator Failure, but the big song, Dante's Inferno, one of the best metal songs ever written, and 16 plus minutes of just insanity, thrashy brutality on top of epic power metal madness. Just, what more can I say about this album that hasn't been said already by so many people, other than it's not only, in my opinion, the best Iced Earth album, but in my opinion, the best American power metal album of all time. There are other albums I could have went with for power metal. I could have went with Early Halloween. I could have went with a Blind Guardian album. But I wanted to give a shout out to Iced Earth because this album, I feel, if nobody's listened to this album, you've got to check it out. It's a masterpiece. But of course, that's just me and my choice. What do my cohorts have to choose for this episode?
What's up, guys? Just Josh here for day 8 of the 12 days of metal. Today is Power Metal Day, and my pick for power metal is Temple of Shadows by Angra, their 5th album released in 2004. Now, this album I found out about through Matt Hafey's stream on Twitch. I'm sure we all know who Matt Hafey is, but in case you don't, he's the lead vocalist and rhythm guitarist of Trivium. And yeah, he just was talking about this album. He just told everybody in chat to check it out. So I did. And I ended up really liking it. Now, power metal is a genre I never really delved too deep into. Obviously, I've heard some Dragon Force. Basically, they're the most famous power metal band, I guess, or one of them at least. But yeah, this album was really cool. Lots of neoclassical elements on this album, as well as some speed metal and thrash metal elements. I guess power metal has those elements. Most of it, from what I've heard at least, has those faster tempos and thrashier drumming and more fast riffs and stuff like that. But yeah, this album definitely has some neoclassical elements, even some progressive elements. And yeah, some great tracks on here were Spread Your Fire, Angels and Demons, The Temple of Hate, The Shadow Hunter, and No Pain for the Dead. There's some ballad type songs on here as well. Like No Pain for the Dead kind of starts off like a ballad, then builds up for a chorus, then goes back to being a ballad for the verses and stuff. Some good dynamics on this album, but yeah, most of it is just like really upbeat, really fast power metal, and this album was really good.
Yeah, guys, I'm back for this time day number. Oh wait, if I'm gonna do this right, day number 8. It was a week, but effective for day number 8, of course. On the 12 days of metal, day number 8, we're gonna be tackling power metal. So power metal is a mostly European-dominated subgenre. Of course, we have bands like, of course, Halloween. We have bands like Gamma Ray, Blind Guardian. You know, amongst all that, pretty much power metal is pretty much the combination of speed metal combined with a lot of folklore, like Lord of the Rings and all that, combined with more of the more grandiose side of metal. You can get this kind of sing-along kind of into it, not to the point of folk metal, which a lot of people think folk metal could also be a kind of into power metal, kind of, but not really. Folk metal is kind of a like kind of the sister of power metal in some perspective, but not really. But you know, with power metal, like I mentioned before, is a mostly European-dominated genre because a lot of power metal bands for some reason were from Europe, like mostly from Germany or from somewhere in Italy or France or what have you. But for this day, I chose a band, actually an album that to me, when I think of power metal, I think automatically of this album. I could have gone with the obvious choice. I could have gone with probably the originators of power metal and being Rainbow. I could have gone with Rainbow Rising, which, you know, if you have not listened to Rainbow Rising, what the hell are you doing here? Or hell, I could have gone with further back in time. Could have gone with something from Deep Purple, which a lot of people think Deep Purple were the first, you know, true power metal band. And in some perspective, I do see their arguments. But to me, I went with the album that kind of put power metal on the map, in my personal opinion. And of course, that is Halloween's Keeper of the Seven Keys Part 1. I'm not sure. Levi's gonna probably add the album cover somewhere around here or here, because honestly, I don't have any power metal in my collection, which is a fucking shame. That's one thing I need to do, get more power metal in 2023. But regardless, yeah, Halloween, Keeper of the Seven Keys Part 1, released somewhere in May of 1987. So again, this was almost at the very beginning of the origins of power metal began more known throughout Europe. Of course, Halloween being a mostly German band, of course, being inspired by Iron Maiden. Halloween is kind of Iron Maiden, but faster on steroids. That's like the best way I can describe Halloween. But a lot of people grant this along with probably Keeper of the Seven Keys Part 2, but to me, Part 1, in my opinion, is probably the best one of the bunch because it has songs like I'm Alive, Twilight of the Gods, not to be confused with, of course, with I'm Gonna March, Twilight of the Thunder God, which a lot of people do that, or even, you know, Bathory's Twilight of the Gods album. But regardless, also A Tale That Wasn't Right, a kind of a ballad-esque kind of song, which I really enjoy, me being kind of the ballad guy in the Horseman podcast. But regardless, this album is mostly notable for, of course, the 13-minute epic song Halloween, which you gotta think about it. Back in 1987, the most length of a song, 5 minutes, 6 minute tops. When you go a 13-minute stretch of a song, a lot of people thought they're fucking crazy. No one's gonna listen to this song. No one's gonna listen to this album. And look, it fucking sold over 1 million copies fucking 30, almost 40 plus years later. That shows how much this band was into it back in the day, because like as I mentioned before, a 13-minute track back in the late 80s was unheard of at the time. And this was released probably in the mid 90s to early 2000s. It would have regarded as probably one of the greatest epic, long songs of all time. But the fact that it was released in 1987, a lot of people kind of tuned off of it, even to the point that even on radio they would not, and I mean they would not play your original 13-minute song. They would probably play the 4 to 5 minute radio edit version, which it's a good version, but to me, when you have a song that's 13 minutes in length, you gotta listen to the entire fucking song no matter what, in my personal opinion. But Halloween is one of those songs that I listen to every time around, the time of Halloween. Of course, I think I put that song in my response to Scott's videos and his video of 10 metal songs just around Halloween time, if I remember correctly. But everything from the songs is great. They're fast, they're heavy, the lyrics are great. A lot of sing-along moments that a lot of people live could actually enjoy and sing along to, which was one of the main things of power metal. Has a long sing-along qualities that you just get with your buddies, grab some beers, and sing along to these choruses and all that. The guitarists are great, the vocals are great, the drums are great. Everything about this album is fucking fantastic. And for those reasons, I chose Halloween Keeper of the Seven Keys Part 1 on my power metal pick.
Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of the 12 Days of Metal. Hope you guys enjoyed the following albums that we've talked about on this episode, and I hope you all have a very Merry Christmas indeed. Horns high. See you guys in the new year.